there are 25 histories of Helen of the Cross. That's the mother of Constantine the Great, the great empress, wife of Constantine Chlorus, emperor. And she goes to Sinai with a couple of legions, footsteps of Moses. She went to Jerusalem, 325, 326 AD, and she said, "Give me the cross. I want it." And of course there was a...
This is the cross of Jesus you're talking
about. This is the cross that Jesus is nailed on, you see. And she demands that they give her the Holy Cross. They will tell us, so she gets about 120 of them, tortures them a bit, gets it down to 50, tortures them, gets it down to about 20, finally gets it to 5 guys, and finally gets it to 1 man. Puts him in a dry well with no water and no food. It's a dry well. And finally he says, "Oh, all right." He tells her where the Holy Cross is. She goes along, gets the nails, makes them into a bridle bit for a horse for her son. So he's got the nails of the cross in his horse to guide it. She covers the cross with jewels and gold, and she puts in a silver casket. She assembles her fleet and sails back to the UK. And this is recorded in the Exeter book, and Anglo-Saxon is recorded in 25 different histories. So the cross is in the UK. And this is all in our histories. It's written down, clear, in the manuscripts. They can't mistake it. Yeah. The one we use is the Exeter book, which is an Anglo-Saxon Dark Age history, or an English one, right? So we're not Welsh on this one. But also it's in the Harleian 3859 manuscript, which describes in the genealogies how Helen brought the cross, you know, to Britain and one thing and the other. She then parades it around, mainly around Wales and parts of England. So you get, see what these people did, they didn't leave any of their goods behind in palaces or anything when they went somewhere. They got all their train of wagons of ox carts and that ready, and they loaded all their best possessions on and took them with them. So about every 10 miles, the ox wagons would stop. If you go to Wales, you'll find a little field. The field of the cross, the road of the cross, 10 miles further on, the pass of the cross, the vale of the cross, the wood of the cross. It goes all around the country like that. See, when these potentates, kings and that, travelled, they didn't leave any their loot behind them in the palace and nothing, or the court. Oh no, they took everything with them in ox carts. Yeah. And you can follow the route that she parades the cross around Wales for everybody to see it. And it says she then put it in Constantinople. Well, the English being the English, they go, it's gone to Constantinople. Which Constantinople? You see, there's a little hamlet in West Wales called Constantinople. Yeah. Nearby is Castell Ellyn Fawr, the castle of the great Ellen. And you go there in the lanes, you see huge blocks of beautifully hewn, cut stone, being used in all the hedges. And in the woods is big ruins. Nobody ever bothers with it. And there's other names about, you know, the Mabinogi story of the Penedor Steelshirt visiting the Countess, and the Countess is the Empress of Constantinople. And he stays with a miller at the town with a miller's wife. Trevelyan Varchog, Milltown Knight. It's there. There's a little valley, and every farm has got a mill on it. And he says, "Why have you all got mills?" It's to feed all the soldiers this year. There's 14 farms in that little valley. Every one has an ancient mill on it, right? And Avon Bannon, River of the Empress. Yeah, Kevin Bannon, Ridge of the Empress. You know, da-da-da. And the ruins of a very big palatial place that in the bloody woods, the Empress. And the name after name, it's where she put the cross.
Another discovery of international importance, which we have been forced to keep secret. We don't know exactly what is behind this ancient wall over the mouth of this cave. However, numerous ancient records indicate that this is the cave of the Cross of Christ, brought from Jerusalem in AD 325 by the British Christian Empress Helen. Helen was the wife of the Emperor Constantine Chlorus of the West. She was also the mother of Constantine the Great, who permitted Christianity in the Roman Empire in AD 312. This secret walled-up cave was located through methodical industrial techniques of analysis, analysing ancient British records, some of which have been documented in the book Arthur and the Charters of the Kings. All the great historians of the Church in bygone days, particularly Cardinal Baronius and Cardinal Alford and Archbishop Usher and Stillingfleet, these historians name at least 25 ancient sources and references to Helen bringing the cross to Britain. The Dark Age records include those of Rome, Constantinople, Anglo-Saxon and Welsh.
There's a sealed cave and we've put the old magic machine on it again. We've put on the site, we've put a metal detector and it shows up an object 4 to 4.5 feet long and about 1 foot by 1 foot, non-ferrous metal. You go along, you put the machine on the wall, it goes ding, 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 ding. The cross is behind the wall at Nevin. We think that matches the silver casket that she put the bit of cross in. Okay? So that's the sort of thing that we do. This is how we go about it, that's what we do.
Here's the normal stratification of the rock, and that is solid rock. If you notice the way the vein of the rock runs this way, here we've got slabs which can be removed. Yeah. This is man-made. This is not an ordinary wall. This has been put here to camouflage and blend in.
It's just shape.
It was probably covered as well.
Well, it was. When we got here, see the ivy there?
Yeah.
The fern, it was all over it.
That's where it is. X marks the spot. 8 feet back from the actual entrance, maybe 6, 8, 10 feet, something like that.
And the cave is done in a funny fashion, and I recognise that the shape of the wall, the sealed wall, is cleverly done because you could look at it and think it's just the cliff continuation. When you look at it carefully, it's stones fitted to match the cliff. And so we said, hey, there's a map, and there's another cross, part of the cross carved on the cliff wall, and the stem of it goes down and is formed of stones on the false wall. Do you understand? This is a map. See the shape of it? See how it goes around there, around that? You see the shape? The shape of the wall? It's a map. And you see the cross?
Yeah.
The cross is on the solid natural rock, but the base of it comes down off the rock and becomes part of the man-made wall.
That's right.
It's a pointer.
Yeah.
It's pointed to a place on this map. So all you do is find out where this is, this area, the map, go to where the cross is pointing.
And
That's
the bottom of
the cross is here. The cross is where they want to go. It's a map.
Yeah.
Right.
And what's at the bottom of the cross?
Well, that's where you have to go when you find the place. But it's a map off. You go there.
What, to find the real cross, do you mean?
No. There's loot there.
Right.
And what's here?
The cross.
The cross.
The cross in the box should be here.
You're actually
that is where it's
satisfied the cross is there?
Oh yeah.
I think I am too, because
Yeah. The cross is here, but that's pointing to a big treasure site.
we're getting a signal over here and a signal over there.
Yeah.
Because two parts of it are close.
Yeah. Well, there may be two
Close
things here.
proximity.
One will be, if it's right, the one is going to be a big box, 5 or 6 feet long, made of silver, jewels all over it, a lump of timber in it, right? What the other thing is, I don't know. Could be anything.
Well, there's something. There's two things in here. There's not just one item.
Yeah. So
There
there's two
may
things.
be even
what
more
we got
than
here
two.
is an artifact we think here, right?
Yeah.
But this is a map telling you where you to go for something else. So I said that cross is pointing to something. So we found then that between the centre of the cross where it is and the foot where it would go into the ground, right? I said, look between the cross top and the centre of the cross where it intersects and the bottom. I said, see if you can see anything. So he goes up with the binoculars and he had an old telescope. He comes, hey Al, he said, there's a whacking big pile of white stones in a field. So I went down and had a look at these white stones, and well, they're easily the size of that table there. Bigger, some of them. Yeah, much bigger. the Pilgrim's Way. There's a cross on it.
Sure.
Thousands and thousands of tourists, pilgrims went there for hundreds and hundreds of years. Do you know that?
No.
Well, they did. They wore grooves for their feet in the rocks. And they want to stand on the one bit of stone to reach up and touch the foot of the cross. And that there's a metallic object about 4 or 5 feet long and by a foot behind the wall. And another one lower down.
Right.
Edward I, 1282, he demanded that the Welsh give him the Holy Cross and the crown of Arthur, because he knew they had him, and they wouldn't give it him.
Right.
Now, if he knew they had him, do you think they didn't have him? And do you think all those thousands of pilgrims went there for nothing? It's called the Pilgrim's Path.
Okay, Alan.
Don't tell me it's not there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not telling you it's not there, Alan.
Well, down there, there's the Castle of the Great Helen in Welsh. It's a ruined castle.
Where's that then?
In West Wales, you know the Newport area?
Newport, Gwent?
Newport, Pembrokeshire.
Pembrokeshire.
North Cardigan.
Okay.
There's the Castle of the Great Helen, the Ridge, Kevin Bannon, the Ridge of the Empress, the River of the Empress, Avon Bannon, the River of the Sanctuary, and so on. And I said to Richard Wyatt, a mate of us down, I said, can you get up on Carningly, the highest spot there, you know, get a telescope or something, and see if you can find anything down the centre line of the cross, you know, these things. You mark it on a map, you can see where you are. And he went up and he phoned us. He said, there's a strange pile of big white stones in a field. Well, these big white stones, they must cover about 20 yards by about 5 or 6 now, but they appear to have been laid out in a bolt shape, which is early Christian in Wales anyway. And they're the size of this desk nearly. They're whacking big stones.
Well, each one is the size of these?
Yes. They're half the size, some of them.
Yeah.
Now, the only place you can get those whacking big stones of that type is 7 miles away. So someone's brought them up onto this low hill. So
they've done it for a serious purpose then, haven't they?
That's right. And we found that there was a depression, looked like a track going, or a tunnel or something, going down about 200 yards down this hill slope to where the road levels out, and the road outside the field. Down there, the farmer took us along, and there was a large round stone, like a millstone, there. And we rolled it aside, and there was a little porch built of stone. And this thing had come from these white stones, a diagonal line, you see, down the slope. So we got a JCB, and we cut across this line. And someone in antiquity has dug it. You get a layer of earth on a Welsh hill so much, then you get a bit of a roof shale, and then you get more solid rocks and stones. In this case, someone had dug a trench 7 feet deep and 5 feet wide, 200 yards down the hill. They'd put all the big stones in the bottom, and then all the loose stuff on the top. In other words, it's a perfect way to create a drain in an old field.
Another drain.
And so they're draining they're draining the water away from whatever is under the white stones. We think Helen's buried there. So we've done this sort of.
One question which arises about the claims is, why are these sites not known about? According to Alan Wilson, there is evidence that a major catastrophe occurred at some point in the 6th century, which wiped out most of the population and made parts of Britain uninhabitable for several years.
A comet struck Britain.
We haven't talked about the comet, have we?
It devastated the whole of Britain, and much of Britain the people were destroyed and killed. The remnant, you couldn't enter the devastated lands for 6, 7 to 11 years. The army was taken over to Brittany and waited, and Arthur was over in Brittany, Arthur II. Comet devastated Britain. This was written out of the history books. You see, the Angles and Saxons then moved in from Germany into empty lands. That's how all the Roman towns and Roman-style towns and cities in Britain were devastated. Now, when we started saying this, of course, there's an uproar. But Professor Michael Bailey of Queen's College, Belfast, he noted that he's a dendrochronologist, trees. He noted that all the forests of Britain and Ireland were devastated at this time.
And what was the year?
He thought it was 535, but we said 562. You couldn't say that debris from a comet had hit planet Earth because the church had gone nuts. The Roman church, no stone could fall from on the Earth from the skies, you see. It wasn't until 1803 when strikes of comets all over France. they had to admit.
And this is the path of the comet.
Now, what's happening now in Bolivia, scientists from the University of South Pennsylvania, the Chicago Museum, and Austin University in Texas are all over Bolivia. And what has happened, and they've got a pretty good date on this, they say 562, Bolivia was devastated by debris from a comet.
So this is where it landed then, in Bolivia?
The land was uninhabitable for about 7 to 11 years, identical. The pyramids, the made of mud brick, the palaces, the towns, the walls, the cities, everything was destroyed. And the only survivors had to move down to the coast to survive. Identical story in Britain, identical story in Bolivia, same time. It devastated parts of Ireland and Bailey as noted Irish sort of ancient records. So it did happen. Gregory of Tours, The History of Franks, mentions how the both islands, that's Ireland and Britain, were set on fire from end to end and destroyed. And the date is again right. So that's Arthur, the destruction of Arthur's Britain. And now in the medieval romances you get the great wastelands where it's death to enter, the great wastelands.